So my name is Sandy, and I welcome you here at Home with Quest today on Sunday. I'm really excited to be here. I have been coming to Quest for Life for a decade now, working at the beautiful Quest for Life Centre, and I absolutely love it. I'm just going to have a look at the yes. So I hope that everyone can hear me. So good morning or good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and I'm really privileged to be here with you today. Today is a really interesting topic we're going to talk about loneliness and the effects that it actually has on a lot of us. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here with me today, and if you're checking in here for the first time, please just tell me where you're from. And if you're regular, I'd love to, yeah, just comment and say hi. Love to say hello back. So I am a qualified counsellor and psychotherapist, and I've been working here at the Quest for Life for a decade, like I've said, and now I'm one of the facilitators there at Quest. So I'm really honoured and humbled to be a part of Quest for Life. And I live in the south coast area of Jervis Bay. So if anyone knows where St George's Basin is, that's where I'm from. And maybe just let me know where you're from today. So before we start talking about the loneliness and what the effects are on people that actually do feel that deep loneliness with what they've been challenged with, I just want to acknowledge the Yuin people, their elders, past, present, and emerging. As my town is called St George's Basin, and the area that I'm on, the land that I'm on, is called the Burrawee land. So again, just please let me know if you can't hear me. I'd like to know if you can hear me. I'm getting some thumbs up, so that's a good sign. So today we're going to just talk a little bit about the impacts of loneliness in our mental, physical, and spiritual selves today. And so according to the global survey, I did a little research on this. Actually, 33% of adults have experienced loneliness in their adult life, in their lifetime. It affects us in our mental health with depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, and stress. It also affects our health. It affects our blood pressure and causes disruptions in our sleep. And we tend to become the unhealthy. So we tend to become unhealthy and have an unhealthy lifestyle and withdraw from society. But before we dive into the causes and the reasons behind loneliness, we're just going to start with coming to the senses. So if you're regular here, you've been to At Home with Quest and you've seen what the practice is that Patria started many, many years ago. She actually says that she doesn't go one moment without coming to the senses. So, okay, so wherever you are, just allowing yourself to close down the eyes if that feels comfortable. And if not, that's okay, just lower them. And just start to bring your awareness into your body. Just feeling your body in the chair, noticing the support that you have from wherever you are. Notice the touch of clothing on your skin. Noticing how your clothing creates the warmth. Notice the brush of air touching your skin. Maybe be aware of the movement of the air as you breathe, the coolness of air on the in-breath, the warmth of air on the out-breath. Becoming aware of your feet and how they feel, and maybe just wiggling your toes, just feeling the sensation in your feet. Just noticing how your feet support your body, how they connect to the earth. Now noticing any taste in your mouth, just be curious with what's left behind. Perhaps just moving your tongue against the roof of your mouth or the back of your teeth, and just notice what's left behind from perhaps lunch, food, drink, whatever is left behind. Now just bring your attention to the sense of smell. Notice if there's any aroma in the room. Any scent that you may notice. Just bring your awareness to the sense of smell. Now bringing your awareness to your sense of sight. Just notice what's behind the closed eyes. Or if they're lowered, just become aware of what's in your gaze. And if they're closed, just notice what's behind them. Perhaps dark and light, or colours. Just notice any shapes. Now bringing your attention to the sounds around you, the sounds that you hear in the room. Just noticing them and letting them go, not holding on to any sound. Just extending the sound, the hearing of the sounds all the way outside the room. Just let your hearing run right out. To hear the grass growing or the sun shining. Again, just noticing, not judging. And if thoughts come, just let them come like those white clouds across the sky, and just let them go. See if you can let those thoughts go and come back to the senses. And just bringing your awareness now all the way back in to the room, back into the body. And just bring your attention and awareness to your breath. The inhale and the exhale. Just noticing. Slowly coming back to the body in the seat. Maybe moving your hands or having a stretch. Just bringing your whole awareness back. That's it. And just noticing how you feel. Just becoming aware of your body in the seat again. Beautiful. So if you are regular, if you do come to At Home with Quest and you're familiar with these senses, bringing this practice into your everyday is a lifesaver. Yeah, because we are coming back to the present. We're noticing our breath and the body and all the senses. And it actually engages the task positive network in our brain, the TPN. And therefore the brain stops firing off the old patterns, the old thoughts. Yeah? And so those panic and the anxiety and the things that sort of happen after our thinking gets a hold of us. When we engage in a tool like this, in coming to the senses, it actually starts the TPN, yeah, the task positive network in the brain. So I find that fascinating. So I hope that helps. So thank you for being here. Thank you for staying. And I know this is for some of you maybe maybe you can relate to being lonely at in some parts of your life. It's important to address this because we have just had a loneliness awareness week in June. So by identifying and acknowledging all of the times that we have personally felt and experienced loneliness, we start to change our perspective just by noticing it, just by acknowledging that. And maybe you can, as I speak, notice the times where you felt lonely or if it's happening now. And just see if you can bring some awareness to it, but with some kindness, yeah, as it comes up for you. So really, really acknowledging you right now, if that's present for you, any states of loneliness, you may have had some grief lately, or whatever's happened for you. I'm acknowledging that today. So what is loneliness really? Loneliness is a deeply personal experience. It's more than just being alone. It's a feeling of isolation, even if you're surrounded by people. So, for example, you may feel lonely at a party if you don't feel connected to anyone there or a function. Yeah, even if it's family. So loneliness can come in two ways, yeah, the emotional loneliness and social loneliness, where we feel a lack of a broader social network. And the emotional loneliness comes in the form of possibly missing our loved one, our partner, our confidant, our support person. And we now live in such a very fast-paced life, don't we? World of technology. And you would assume that we're all connected. But quite often being on social media or being scrolling, they call it doom scrolling, creates a deeper sense of loneliness. Yeah. And a loneliness affects our mental health in so many ways. It increases the risk of depression and anxiety and leads to feelings of worthlessness and sadness. Chronic loneliness can impair cognitive functions, affecting our memory and the ability to learn. Imagine someone who, you might have someone that that you can think of that comes up for you that you may have lost or that you may not see anymore for various reasons. And if that's you, then there's a sense of that deep despair, isn't there? Yeah, and it affects us in our daily lives. Yeah, just daily functions. And so you feel free to drop in the comments if that's you and if you have feelings of loneliness, if you're struggling with that, because I'm going to talk about ways to support you, yeah, to give you ways, and you might know a lot of them actually, which it would be great if you dropped in the comments what you do to manage the states of loneliness that you might feel, because we're all in it together, really. It affects the physical body as well, because loneliness extends beyond our mind to our body. It's associated with heart disease and can weaken our immune system. We start to have poor sleep. You might notice if you start to struggle with poor sleep. And it weakens our immune system. So my grandmother, she just turned this year 98, and she's still alive, but she's got dementia now. And I noticed a decline in her health about 10 years ago when she lost her husband. They migrated from Germany. They started a family, and they were very strong and independent, struggling, yeah, migrated from overseas. And when she lost her husband, it was a sudden loss. I noticed her decline. My mother stepped in and took care of her, but my grandmother, loneliness has really caused a lot of her capacity to connect. And now she's at an age where she's she's doesn't connect very well. She's got dementia, so there's a lot of other things going on. And I often think about that now, and had I known about this or other people in our family, maybe we could have supported her differently. Just maybe put in the comments too if that's happened to you, if you have elderly parents, or you're elderly yourself and maybe you're struggling with, missing somebody. So I visit her when I can. My mother lives near her, and she lives in a retirement village. But I think it's a really deep personal experience that my grandmother's feeling, going through this yearning, missing her husband. So the cycle of loneliness, I just want to go over a few things and see if, we can understand and really nut what loneliness really is about. The cycle of loneliness often is created, and we become stuck. We withdraw from life. We start to do some withdrawing. We start to say no to family and friends. And we start to think, we go down that negative, don't we? That spiral of negative self-talk. We stop going out, and it traps us in this cycle. For example, someone feels lonely, might start to avoid going out to social gatherings, to family functions, and they believe they won't enjoy them, so they don't go. Yeah. And so, it deepens their sense of loneliness. So I'm going to talk about how we can support that, but I just wanted to frame that up for you. And again, you might know exactly what I'm talking about for yourselves. So what are some of the ways that we can manage the feelings of loneliness? I believe we need to start with being kind to ourselves and to actually notice what our self-talk is. It's not beating ourselves up because, what are the phrases? We need to get over it. We should be over it. Whatever's happened in your life, is personal and needs to be taken care of. And often we don't do that, even to ourselves. And, we also, by being kind, we can also, use the language, of course, but notice that what our struggle and what our challenge has been has brought us to this place. Yeah, and yes, we want to move through that. We might be isolating, might be saying no to functions and family. However, how can we move past that if we're not really being nice to ourselves first? Yeah. We can also start to establish simple routines if we can. Yeah. So practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation, just simply doing the coming to the senses, noticing that brings us back into that present moment. We're not in our future. We're not in the past. We're actually sort of practicing right here, right now practices. And it keeps us from the spiraling of those thoughts, doesn't it? When we practice something like coming to the senses or any meditation, we're not in a panic at that time. So the many thoughts that go in our head, it can bring more grief, it can bring more sadness, more anger, all of that, confusion. Another great way to manage our loneliness is to use the mansion. So if you've been to Quest or you know about the practices, we have a metaphor called the mansion of emotion. And it's a great way to really start to tap in to the feelings that are going on in ourselves. Yeah. And the way it's done, so we have programs at Quest that are absolutely um, fantastic for many thousands of people that have come through the program. But they talk about this mansion of emotions, in a way that makes sense. So how can we notice what we're feeling? Because it's in the body. The feeling is there first. So if it feels, if you feel stuck in loneliness, for example, you know, how can I tap through to that? How can I make that part of me today be okay? And so we visit the mansion of emotions in a particular way. And Dan Siegel, if you've heard of Dan Siegel, he actually says, if you can name it, you can tame it. If I can name the feeling, so maybe I'm feeling sad, and the sadness is feeling, maybe it's in the chest, maybe it's in my shoulders, sadness. Maybe I wake up in the morning and I'm noticing the sadness. If I can name it, I can give permission for myself to be in the sad room, in the grief room. If I've lost somebody, if I'm missing somebody. And that's how it starts. Yeah. So if we're not acknowledging, or we're not being aware, or we're not bringing ourselves to the present moment, we're getting into that cycle of loneliness, of grief, and we're sort of starting to become stuck. I hope that's making sense. Let me know if you're understanding where I'm taking this. So the mansion of feelings is a great metaphor to use for ourselves and for children, to really understand what it is that maybe I'm feeling, and then asking myself what I need. It's often not easy. However, we don't want to become stuck somewhere which doesn't give us, any sort of fulfilling life, or peace for that matter. So it's great practices to break the cycle of loneliness with effort and intention. It's kind of like saying, okay, right here, right now. So there's an intention right here, right now. What am I feeling? What do I need? And just to have a guess, actually, to get you out of that cycle of being stuck in loneliness and saying no to life. Yeah. And so practicing the self-talk, being kind. Other ideas that people say is self-care routine, having a good, solid self-care routine. Just really recognizing that, if we're saying no to ourselves, our negative self-talk, then, bringing it back to, okay, have I showered? Did I go to bed last night at a decent hour? Am I sitting, going back to the mansion, am I sitting in the grief room? Am I visiting that grief room and actually taking out my tissues and really bringing that person to mind and having a good cry? Often we're very fearful of vulnerability and we push it down. I think my mother actually does a lot of that. She pushes a lot of her feelings down and she won't cry. And I find that really, really sad. But we can't force other people to do that. We have to do the work ourselves, and to be aware that it's okay and have a safe place to do that in. And another great way to bring yourself back into moments of being present is having some maybe affirmations. Yeah. I am safe. Whatever comes up for you, just to change that neural pathway in your brain of the old ways that keep you stuck in whatever you're feeling, to I am safe, I am okay, I am practicing. Yeah. Thank you for jumping in and commenting. I will read your comments in a moment. I just want to go through to another way of sourcing ways how to move through the loneliness is reaching out, knowing that there are supports out there. And maybe keeping in touch with Quest, which is what you're doing right now. So that's fabulous. So I just want to answer you, Jeanette. Thank you, and thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, so loneliness in never having had the good fortune to have children of your own. Yes, that's right. It's a deep, deep grief, isn't it, Jeanette, to have that sense of loss when people are talking about their grandchildren. That's right. And it's just actually owning that, or being okay with even saying that to yourself. It's okay. I'm allowed to feel that, you know, feeling of shame and loss. Yeah. So I wonder for you, when we feel that shame or when we feel that loss, that we can be there with that. That we can practice being there with that. Rather than pushing it down and let's moving on with what others want us to be moving on with, such as, I don't know, work, going to that family function, whatever it is that others want us to do. How best can we support ourselves in that moment when that comes up for you? Yeah. Or if you're out and that feeling comes up for you of loss, of anger, of whatever it is, when people are talking about their grandkids or their children, and that's a real present. You're noticing it in the body, I imagine. And so that feeling needs to be taken care of and acknowledged, so we don't get into that cycle. Thanks, Angela. Yeah, it's good. I'm glad it's making sense for you. So Petria actually talks, she has the 4 C's, and her teachings of the 4 C's is really the core of the program and the core of Quest for Life, because when we think of, I just want to touch on the last 2 C's. When we think of the last 2 C's, Petria talks about bringing us, the sense of peace when we practice the 4 C's. So the last 2, the second last one is the sense of challenge. If we bring our minds to the sense of challenge, life is always going to bring us challenges and situations that we're not going to be okay with. But it's not the events that make the difference. It's how we can see if we can make meaning out of them, right? They're not going to be, you can't make meaning while you're in it. So if you're going through a challenge or you're going through something right now, you cannot see the meaning of it now. But if you had something in the history, in the past, and you took your mind to that and you fast forward it to now, could there be some curious notion, something that you could maybe possibly bring yourself some meaning around that experience? Because when we make meaning of something, it can challenge, it can shape our experiences differently. So by viewing our challenges, the things that have happened, as a new opportunity or a new chance or a new curious idea going forward, to find some growth, to find the meaning in our struggles, can really bring more peace. It's not going to change it. And I'm not saying we have to do that. All I'm saying is that if we want peace in here, then could we see our challenge, whatever has happened. I had breast cancer about 13 or so years ago now, and at the time, it was like my whole life was going through a washing machine, and I thought I have no control about how it's going to turn out. And to some degree, okay, yes, I didn't know if I would die at that time. And that really, really scared me. However, now and a few years after that, I started doing a lot of inner work, a lot of work on myself. And I realized that had I not gone through that experience of breast cancer, I would not become the counselor and psychotherapist that I am today. And now a facilitator at Quest for Life. If I hadn't gone through that, I could not now be where I am because my mind was shut off. I actually thought I was too old to train and to learn. That was my belief. I was too old. I was a mum of four, and that was my job. And I'm much more than that. I'm much more than a mum, and I'm much more than a counselor and a therapist. Yeah. So I'm just still growing and learning. But I now can see differently because I've moved through that challenge. I could not have seen that then. And so really, if you're going through something, please don't make this, I have to see the meaning or I have to make, myself see something. But if there's something in your history that you can draw from, just see if you can shift that mindset a little bit. Yeah. For instance, if somebody is going through a difficult breakup and you might get to see the challenge to understand their needs. So when they're through the breakup, when they've done some, coming back to the body and doing maybe some work around that, if they can see some meaning that they've made out of it, maybe that their needs are important, maybe that they need to draw some boundaries, maybe that they need to build healthier lifestyle, changes. So you can find meaning out of any challenge if you're not in it. Yeah? So I hope that makes sense to you. And when we seek peace, ultimately that's what we want, don't we? We want to have a sense of peace about ourselves, about our lives, and about the experiences that we've had. So we draw on a lot more resilience and a lot more hope when things like that, we start drawing on our sense of when we find meaning through our challenges. So maintaining our relationships, it's not easy. And when we can maintain in any relationship communication, then it starts to shift the stuckness that we might feel in that relationship. If you're feeling supported and you're feeling safe, then you can use the language with that person if that's something that's a struggle or a challenge. And when we can do that, that also, bridges our relationships. We connect more, so we've got less chance of being isolated, and we don't draw away from them. But if we're stuck with how we can speak our truth or be vulnerable, or so there's ways we use a fantastic communication tool as well, which some of you would know, which is the language. And it's the I notice, I imagine, I feel, I need. And it's a great tool to use even if you write it, if you journal, or if you're wanting to try it out with some, close people that aren't going to mock you or make fun of you or belittle you. It's a great tool to be able to strengthen the neural pathways in your brain and bridge you closer to people so that you're not isolating. Yeah? It's all about how much peace do I want in my life and what are the action steps that I'm taking, and preventing those feelings of isolation. And, being consistent and having the effort, being able to nurture those lasting relationships, and choosing what those relationships mean to you and what work that you're prepared to make that become a stronger connection. So the fourth C that we're going to talk about is just in a small way is just the framework of what Petrea calls connection, the sense of connection. And I love this because we talk about this today in the loneliness. And so, it's not only the connection with others that this 4C talks about. It's the connection to ourselves. It's the connection to land. It's the connection to spirit. It's a connection to others and what we make of that. So it's around belonging. It's around noticing the connection to myself and I matter. So it's the words I say to myself, it's my thoughts. And how much practicing can I do to bring myself back to the present moment when my brain starts going into that loop again? Because don't forget, that is the second nature. That is the loops that have been happening before. And it's how can I bring myself back to right here, right now? Yeah. And so what we're doing is we're cultivating a connection to ourself. We're cultivating a connection to land. You know, the Aboriginals do it really well. If connecting to land is their source, and I think it's amazing. And connection to art, connection to nature, whatever enlivens you, is bringing you closer to peace, isn't it? If you think right now about what brings you alive, think about the connection. Yeah. I've got clients that are very connected to their art. And when they draw, they're drawing from a deep part inside of them. And there's no wrong in that. There's no judgment in that. Other than us probably doing the judging of our own art or our own drawings or of our own music. There's musicians in the world. So we want to really cultivate the sense of connection, the fourth C. And Petrea really looks at the four C's being the bridge to peace, and we need peace. Yeah, we want peace. Yeah, I'm glad it's resonating to you that are watching. I'm really grateful that you're here and you're listening, and maybe it's touching a part of you that you want to really bring out more of. So I'd love you to share what it is that you are connected to. Maybe drop in the comments, what do you feel connected to the most right now? Is there land? Is it about land? Is it about culture? Is it about, what you actually are wanting more of? Or is it relationships? Or is it all of it? So we've explored loneliness a little bit here. And I know that you all have your own story, just like I do, about loneliness and what that has created in you and what grief you have around that. And I also want you to flip on the other side and ask yourself, well, how can I support myself better? How can I bring to the table more of the the kindness and the generosity and the compassion that I would give to somebody else? How am I going to bring more of that to myself on a daily basis, on a moment-to-moment basis? So, reaching out for help, I think we feel like we're failing if we do that. And actually, I know that just by asking a therapist, or talking about going to a therapist 10 or 20 years ago would have been unheard of. And now more and more people are actually talking about that in conversations. I think it's really empowering because we're all in it together. And I think once we know that we're all in it together, we can connect more and support more. And I love being part of Quest because that is a philosophy, yeah, how we can support one another more for who we are, for where we are, for what struggles we have, and coming to the present moment. How can I support myself? Kindness, yes, yeah. And kindness, yeah. Kindness to myself. It's easy to give kindness to other people, especially if you're a carer, especially if you've always done it. But it's not taught to us, yeah. We weren't taught as children, especially in my generation. And that's because our parents didn't know how to do it, kindly, asking us how we felt as a child. We were, yeah, we were conditioned very differently, and it depends on what childhood you had. But, we can do all that now. We can reparent ourselves and we can really bring kindness to that. Nature, yes, yes, connected to nature. I often at Quest for Life, especially if it's a hard week for me, and I'm taking on a lot, I often will go to the front of the property where the two song lines meet. And we've had some elders go and actually say where the two song lines actually meet on the earth there on the front. And I will walk barefoot and just really ground myself. So nature, beautiful. And a healer. Yes, Jeanette, thank you. So I have a poem that I'd love to read to you, if that's okay. And it's by Dana Falls. And if you can close your eyes, if you feel okay to, or lower them, I would love you to do that because I love this poem. And if you can really sort of let go of the thinking and just feel, it might be nice to end this lovely Sunday with you on. And so I'm just reading another comment before I start this poem. Bushwalk, beautiful. I love that, Sue. Yes, I love that. That is gorgeous. Thank you, all of you, for being here and being able to connect again. So this poem is called Just for Now. So if you just allow yourself to sink into the chair and feel supported where you are, know that you're safe, feel the safety. And so the title of this is Just for Now. Just for now, without asking how, let yourself sink into stillness. Just for now. Lay down the weight you so patiently bear upon your shoulders. Feel the earth receive you, and the infinite expanse of the sky grow even wider as your awareness reaches up to meet it. Just for now, allow a wave of breath to enliven your experience. Breathe out whatever blocks you from the truth. Just for now, be boundless, free, with awakened energy tingling in your hands and feet. Drink in the possibility of being who and what you really are. So fully alive that the world looks different, newly born and vibrant. Just for now. So take a nice deep breath. And just let that just settle into your body, into your mind, to your spirit, just for now. So thank you. I'm really, really grateful for you all being here. And again, just really staying kind with whatever you're feeling, knowing that you're supported, knowing that you can bring more support in. And I'm sending lots of kindness to you all to have a beautiful Sunday. And maybe ask yourself what it is that you'd like to do now for yourself. If that was the word, let's be kind to myself. What is it? What it is it actually that you need? So thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.